everybody, Roxabox90 here with a commentary version on a three-way EDH commander game between Drana, Cluster, Bloodchief, Purphuros, God of the Forge, and Ghave, Guru of Spores. So we have a three-way game here, not quite as big as the last multiplayer one I made, which was four-way, but three-way also can be a lot of fun. It creates a more personal environment, and it makes it a little less likely for the games to be ridiculously long, which is usually what happens if you have 4 players or more. 3 players is like the perfect mix of if you just want an hour or so playing. Most of the time that's good enough. So the game starts off pretty slow. Snow-covered swamps are here for the most part simply because it allows a monocolor deck advantage. There are cards like Extra Planar Lens, which if you exile a snow-covered swamp does not help anybody else. And there, of course, there are cards that also hit certain basic swamps and use certain basic swamps versus ones that use snow-covered swamps. So there's a reason for them being there. Mike is me, by the way, so in case I refer to myself in third person as Mike, it's mostly from improv, not because I'm a narcissist. Just trying to say that so you guys know, Mike is me. And we have Abraham piloting Purphuros. Purphuros is going to be, oh, I guess I should mention that this video is, most of the commentary is not going to be just here's what happens the end. Highlight version to tend to be for that. I'm going to have some of that, but I also want to talk about, give you guys some background what's going on and talk about general EDH commander thought as the game goes through. So, oh, I guess I'll mention Alex here is setting up his mana base very well. He has some non-basics. In fact, he has no basics at all, and he's beginning to set himself up. Demonic Tutor comes out, the best tutor, my personal opinion, in EDH commander. There we go, Demonic Tutor. Mike played Urborg, which will be obnoxious throughout the game, because Urborg gives pure advantage all the time. And yeah, so the Purphuros deck here as the game starts off fairly slowly. Purphuros deck is a fairly budget build, and the only reason it can really compete with the Drana and Ghave decks, both decks which have been in production for quite a while and have a lot more value in them, is because it's basically red deck wins in its design. Purphuros hits play, you just play lots of small guys, swing with them early on. Purphuros' effect activates. Here we go, Purphuros is actually on field now. The command zone wasn't quite as over as I or Alex or I had. If you notice, Ghave's up in the corner and Drana's over behind the phone. It's usually better to keep your commander further away from the main board, just so it's clear. But yeah, anyway, drops lots of guys, does lots of damage, has cards like Mogg War Marshal, which comes into play, puts 2 guys into play for 2, which each of them do 2 damage, and then Mogg War Marshal sacrifices out, puts another guy into play, another 2 damage to each player, etc. And it's nice that Purphuros has the pump up effect as well, fire breathing, whatever they call it specifically these days. So I tutor with Demonic Tutor also, because lo and behold, more than one deck has Demonic Tutor. Yeah. Soul Ring hit play. Obviously in multiplayer this is not a problem, though some players and some metas like to completely ban Soul Ring. We don't mind it in multiplayer, and sometimes not even in 1v1. If both decks are running Soul Ring, we tend to be fairly flexible with it. Here's Mogg War Marshal coming out, swinging for tons of damage. Not really swinging, he's just sitting there for tons of damage. It's kind of like a goblin guy sitting there and like pointing and firing fireballs, which doesn't really make any sense, but boom, there we are. Okay, so the Ghave deck is very much, while both Ghave and Drana have infinite combos in them, and they could work as combo decks, both of them are designed to stay away from combo generally. So the Ghave is about messing around with 1/1 counters and saprolings and swinging for lots of damage, which is pretty much for fun. It's also easier to pilot, and given that Alex is about 9 years old, you don't necessarily want playing the most complicated combo deck out there. Although if you really like combo and you like playing very complicated decks, Ghave can be absolutely confusing and ridiculous. There's tons of decks you can find on MTG Salvation that use Ghave as a combo monster. Here it's mostly for beatdown. We have Cabal Coffers hit the play. This card is ridiculous. If you're playing mono black and you're not playing Cabal Coffers, you're playing wrong. And Cabal Coffers, even if it's $10, $12 and you're building a budget deck, it's an uncommon and you must have it in your deck. Even if it takes up 10% of your budget, it will make your deck. And there, in fact, that's why I put cards like Expedition Map and more tutors in the deck just to get Cabal Coffers. Because now, I believe I'm generating almost, 8 mana to 10 mana of swamps with only 5 lands in play. And this gets more and more exacerbated as the game goes on because more lands hit play and they double their value pretty much just from having Cabal Coffers around. Okay, so everybody has creature board here. I played Grave Titan, which is, even though you think, oh, EDH Commander, Blightsteel Colossus is Eldrazi, Grave Titan is still one of the scariest creatures to deal with. You don't realize quite how much power it has until it's on the field turn 4 or 5 and starts swinging. So here we go. Everybody has tokens, which is funny. Doesn't always happen that way. But I cycled a Decree of Pain, which does -2/-2 to each creature, keeps Grave Titan alive, but kills everything else. Is it the right move? It's questionable because I would have drawn probably 10 cards, I guess, 12 cards for 8 mana, which could have potentially swung the game one way or another. But still, with Grave Titan in play, immediately got back the 2 tokens and gives complete board control, which is great. O-Stone also is not one of my favorite wraths. I played it a little earlier, but I like that it just sits there. It gives you the ability when you have tons of mana to feed mana into it to protect your stuff in case it ever goes off. And it does swing games because people are nervous playing around it. Deathforge Shaman, one of the best shamans in the format, mostly because it scales, and scaling cards are fantastic. Because in EDH, games can go on a long time, you get lots of mana in play. Cards that scale up are ridiculous. So a card like that, which might not seem amazing at first, when you realize it can do 5-10 damage later game, it's really awesome. Doubling Season is ridiculous. Here, Deserted Temple, this is the most important card to mention being dropped here. This card, I got it when it was like $1 or $2, and it's only since gone up. If you're running things like Gaia's Cradle or Cabal Coffers, it is a shoe-in support card. It works so well when you're playing non-basics that provide you extra mana, and it even works well if there's a doubler in play. If there's a creature or enchantment that doubles mana, and it's still a 2-for-1. It's still not a bad option, or a 3-for-1. Withering Boon, countering Avatar of Fury. Withering Boon is, I think, the only functional mono-black counterspell out there. There is another one, but it's one of these browbeat effects where they get to pay 5 life or it works or something like that, which is not nearly as good in EDH Commander. But this card, you pay 3 life, 2 mana, counters a creature, which is really big deal. I don't know if Avatar Fury really matter all that much in this game at this point. It's not like I had, 6 life or something, or even 10 life. I have 27, but whatever. I don't know what that decision was made. Runescar Demon is another demonic tutor on a stick. Great card. Ghave has a play with Doubling Season is absolutely shenanigans because if you pay 1 to take off a counter, it makes 2 saplings. If you sacrifice a sapling, you get 2 1/1 counters. So Ghave can feed himself, making himself huger, and also making more saplings from this. It's a great engine, obviously. Cage Sun, love the card. It's actually slowly started rising in price because it was a new Phyrexia, which is becoming a harder and harder set to get hands on, and it is a massive staple in EDH Commander. So if you guys don't have your Cage Suns already, I would try to get at least one if you plan to run mono color ever, because it is one of the best doublers that you can have. Runescarred has a Lash Writhe attached. Lash Writhe, there's another card, Doom Mantle or something, which does a similar effect, but Lash Writhe I find is more flexible because it comes into play with a creature on its own, and it doesn't cost life necessarily. It's Phyrexian mana, so it doesn't necessarily cost life to equip, and the deck, mono black deck, obviously has lots of mana, so it doesn't have to worry usually too much about spending life there, but it made Runescarred into like a 15/15 or something. Okay, Verdant Catacomb, going to search up, I think a Shockland, probably Godless Shrine, or, I don't know, Overgrown Tomb is right in play. Yeah, Godless Shrine. I don't remember exactly. Okay, so Mike is swinging for the rafters with his Runescarred. I think he hit Abraham for 15 last turn, something like that. The game itself is starting to escalate, obviously, from the board, and now that Kamal hits play, oh my gosh, Kamal. I'm starting to prefer Kamal as a commander to Omnath, and in fact any other mono-green commander, if only because he protects against wraths, which makes your beatdown strategy more effective, and he also enhances beatdown strategy. So here, even having 3 or 4 sapling tokens, having Doubling Season to make double tokens and then having those tokens swing with Kamal's overrun on a stick. It's a great play. And the fact is, if Alex had left open some forests, which he probably should have, it would have also deterred against wrath spells, because he could have turned other people's non-basics or even basics into creatures, and the O-Stone would have destroyed them, I think. Actually, O-Stone might be non-land permanent, so it might not work anyway, but still, like generally most wraths, you can prevent people from doing stuff like that. So Yawgmoth's Will comes into play. This card is new to my deck, and after this, with the amount of mana going on, it's absolutely insane. Lets you recast most everything from your graveyard, permanence-wise, I think. I don't think it lets you recast spells. But yeah, if you have enough mana, boom, everything has flashback, and obviously there's enough mana with between Cage Sun and Cabal Coffers to play tons of stuff. So we got Cage Sun, Lash Ride, Runescar Demon. I don't know if anything else comes back. Expedition Map. I wonder what to go get with Expedition Map. Any other? Maybe if someone... I don't know what I don't know what the Expedition Map was for. Anyway. Obliterate! This card just... And Purphuros just sits there. Ha 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 ha. Sitting there. He's indestructible, so you can't blow him up. But the board just reset. Everybody's on lower life. Alex has 22, so it puts him in the lead. But what nobody realizes is because I had so much mana being generated, I didn't have to play any swamps for a while. So I have a couple swamps, at least 2 swamps in hand. As we see here, it goes around the board. It's like a ring around the rosy kind of thing. Ashes, we all fall down at the end because Mono Black is going to destroy everything, because that's what Mono Black does. But anyway, just playing boring stuff. Nether Trader, I probably will be taking it out. It's supposed to work with Skull Clamp. That's kind of the main reason it's in here, and it's unblockable if you throw a Lash Writhe on it. But even so, it's very hard to recast from the graveyard properly, and it's a little awkward with 2 black mana symbols for such a small card that you want to play early on. Mimic Vat is an understated staple. It's only $1 or $2 now. If you don't have any Mimic Vats, you should definitely grab 1 or 2, because in the very long term, that card will be, at least the foil will be worth money, because it's a major EDH card. Any non-token creature that dies and goes to a graveyard, you can put onto it and generate a copy of it every single turn with haste, which is insane. Nim Deathmantle also, it works in an infinite combo for the Drana deck. You put it together with Wormcoil Engine and Astronaut's Altar, I believe, to generate infinite creatures, infinite mana. But yeah, Basalt Monolith. I really prefer the new one because the old one has like a wall of text and it's very hard to understand. But there are also infinite combos with Basalt Monolith, although not right here. Like Voltaic Key works very well with it, and stuff. Nim Deathmantle. So right now there's a bunch of stuff on the field, but not many creatures. Red Elemental Blast. I think that was not supposed to be in there for this game because there's no blue, even though Red Elemental Blast is one of the best removal against blue ever. If you're playing in a field with blue, that card kills Jace the Mind Sculptors. It counters huge spells. It's amazing. And everybody's starting to slowly try to get back on their feet, but now that Cryptghast is out, for me, it's just going to be very hard for people to come back, because Cryptghast is one of my favorite new cards, as in the last year or 2. It's so good. 4 mana for a reasonable body, but the fact is it extorts and it doubles your black mana. It's also splashable. It's 3 and a black. You can easily put it into most decks. It's funny because I think I've had Top out for a while and haven't really used it. Okay, everybody's... Well, Abraham's kind of stuck. I don't know why he did Obliterate. Maybe he was desperate, but I don't know why he did Obliterate when he didn't have a lot of mana in hand. That's strange. Alex, Sylvan Library, one of the best control the top 3 cards of your library cards. Soren Markov doing probably the worst -3 of all time, only doing 8 damage with -3 in a multiplayer EDH game. That's pretty unexpected. Okay, but yeah, everyone's life total is slowly being chipped away. I kind of have the board position, mostly because of the various card draw slash not having to play as many lands. So I'm obviously ahead of everyone, but Alex is coming back slowly here. Willleaf Liege hits play. This is a 1 token generator that is probably fine to keep, mostly because if it's discarded, it comes into play for free, and it also hits both green and white. It's a double Anthem for a reasonable cost, unlike Glorious Anthem, which we pulled out, and a Guy's Anthem stuff we're going to pull out. Karn Liberated, what? This is not fair. 2 Planeswalkers for me. Mostly because of Cryptghast. Honestly, Cryptghast is what is speeding up the game here for me. It's really ridiculous. So, okay. Yeah, so the game obviously is winding to a close at this point. I don't think anybody is doing anything particularly insane. At this point in the game, you really need like another Wrath spell, and I don't think anybody's really going to pull it together. Eternal Witness can go. I don't know if he used or discarded a Wrath spell. Just King Soul Ring. Okay, yeah, it's not much going on. And this is why I love Mono Black, mostly because it is highly resilient with its doublers, with its mana control, with its general control. I mean, you have everything from counter spells to removals to mana doubling to you name it. Mono Black has it just about. And Sepulchral Primordial, Reanimator card right there going. I don't really know what the heck that was for. I don't think it was even necessary. Maybe just playing it for fun. But yeah, that was the game. So, if you guys enjoyed this multiplayer game and commentary, please leave your comments down below. And if you enjoyed it, tap the like button. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe as well until the end of March 2014. If you order from abugames.com, $25 or more, and put the code word from the description of the video in your order, you will get a free pack of sleeves, so take advantage of that. And as always, guys, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.